Welcome back to our series on the Polish September of 1939. In this third installment, we're retaking a closer look at the concept of total war as it was unleashed upon Poland. This wasn't just a clash between armies. It was a conflict that deliberately and systematically targeted the entire fabric of a nation. Following direct orders from the highest levels of German command, the invasion of Poland introduced a brutal form of warfare. The objective wasn't simply to defeat the Polish military. It was to terrorize and subjugate the civilian population. This strategy went far beyond the established conventions of combat, bringing devastation to ordinary people's lives. The German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, was a key instrument in this strategy. Its operations were not confined to military installations or transportation hubs. From the very beginning, German bombers targeted towns and cities with little to no military or industrial significance. One of the most infamous examples happened on the very first day of the war, September 1st, 1939. The small town of Wielun, which had no military presence, was subjected to a ferocious aerial bombardment. The attack began in the early morning, catching residents completely by surprise. Hospitals marked with Red Cross symbols, historic churches, and residential homes were all turned to rubble. Wielun was essentially wiped off the map, serving as a terrifying demonstration of Germany's intent. This wasn't an accident or a case of mistaken identity. It was a calculated act of terror designed to break the spirit of the Polish people from the outset. And Wielun was just the beginning. Similar air raids were carried out across the country. The Luftwaffe also targeted civilians who were trying to escape the fighting. Columns of refugees, men, women, and children, fleeing the advancing German army on foot or in carts, were relentlessly strafed and bombed from the air. These were not military convoys. They were terrified people seeking safety. By attacking these defenseless columns, the German forces aimed to create chaos, block roads to impede Polish military movements, and spread panic far and wide. The message was clear: nowhere and no one was safe. The brutality wasn't limited to the air. Anti-Grun German forces engaged in widespread atrocities from the moment they crossed the border. In regions like Greater Poland and Silesia, the conflict immediately took on a savage character. Local self-defense groups, composed of citizens who took up arms to defend their hometowns, were shown no mercy. When captured, these impromptu soldiers, often including veterans, scouts, and ordinary civilians, were frequently executed on the spot rather than being treated as prisoners of war. Their resistance, however brief, was met with lethal reprisal. A particularly grim fate awaited the defenders of the Polish post office in the free city of Gdańsk. On September 1st, a small group of postal workers held out for nearly 15 hours against a vastly superior German force. After finally surrendering, they were not afforded the protections due to combatants. Instead, they were tried by a German military court in October 1939, executed by firing squad. Their heroic defense became a symbol of Polish resistance, but their treatment at the hands of the invaders highlighted the lawlessness that would characterize the occupation. These were not isolated incidents, but part of a systematic campaign of terror and retribution. One of the most notorious events of this period took place in the city of Bydgoszcz, which German propaganda would later label Bloody Sunday. To understand what happened, we need to look at the context. As the Polish army was withdrawing from the city on September 3rd, they came under fire from snipers within the city. Historical evidence shows that these shots were fired by members of the local German minority, who were collaborating with the invading army. In the ensuing chaos, Polish soldiers and militia responded, targeting individuals found with weapons or suspected of being part of this fifth column activity. Some German collaborators were killed in the street fighting. However, the German propaganda machine seized upon these events, twisted the narrative, and portrayed it as an unprovoked massacre of innocent ethnic Germans by the Poles. This false narrative of Bloody Sunday was then used as a pretext for a horrific and large-scale punitive action once German forces secured control of Bydgoszcz. What followed was a wave of brutal reprisals against the Polish population of the city. 4 days, German soldiers, accompanied by members of special task forces and local German collaborators, rounded up thousands of Polish civilians. Teachers, priests, public officials, high school students, and anyone considered part of the Polish intellectual or leadership class were targeted. People were dragged from their homes, often based on lists prepared in advance by their German neighbors. They were subjected to public humiliation, beatings, and summary firing squads operated in the city's market square and other locations. It is estimated that at least 1,500 Polish civilians were murdered in Bydgoszcz, in the days following its capture. A brutal act of collective punishment based on a fabricated justification. Sadly, the terror was not confined to Bydgoszcz. Similar atrocities occurred in other towns and cities as the German advance continued. In Częstochowa, famous for its Jasana Gora monastery, German troops carried out a massacre on September 4th. After a chaotic and possibly staged incident involving gunfire, soldiers rounded up civilians in the main squares. They were forced to lie face down for hours while soldiers walked among them, shooting people arbitrarily. Hundreds of Polish civilians, including Jews, were murdered in what became known as the Bloody Monday of CZ. The violence against Poland's Jewish population was particularly vicious from the very beginning. The invasion marked the start of the Holocaust on Polish soil. On September 8th, in the town of Będzin, German soldiers deliberately set fire to the Great Synagogue, which was filled with Jewish worshippers who had gathered for prayers. The soldiers then surrounded the burning building, shooting anyone who tried to escape the flames. In the rampage that followed, more than 40 Jewish residents were murdered in acts of extreme and sadistic violence. This was a horrifying preview of the systematic genocide that was to come. Even Polish soldiers who had surrendered were not safe. The laws of war, which dictate humane treatment for prisoners of war, were frequently ignored. One of the most documented cases of such a war crime took place near the village of Ciepielów. There, in the Dąbrowa forest, a large group of Polish soldiers from the 74th Infantry Regiment were captured after a fierce battle. After they had laid down their arms and were taken into German custody, they were systematically murdered. Photographs taken by a German soldier, which later surfaced, provide chilling evidence of the crime. They show the Polish prisoners, some still in their uniforms, being stripped and executed by their captors. This was not an isolated event. Numerous other instances of Polish posts being killed after capture were recorded throughout the September campaign. This multifaceted assault on the Polish nation targeting cities, refugees, civilian leaders, prisoners of war, and ethnic and religious groups was the essence of the total war waged by Germany in 1939. It was a strategy designed not just to achieve military victory, but to crush the will of a people, erase its leadership, and terrorize it into submission through unspeakable brutality. The events of September 1939 set a dark precedent for the horrors that would engulf Poland and the rest of Europe during the Second World War. Join us next time as we explore the international reaction and the next phase of this tragic chapter in history. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. 10